Welcome back to more UCL Fantasy content. This will be the team selection for Matchday 15, the first leg of the semi-finals. I have 5 free transfers and no chips remaining. I used the wildcard in Matchday 13 and it has been fairly decent, but I'll discuss my Matchday 14 performance before delving into my transfer plans, and I'm looking to make 3 changes in the forward line and then a few modifications in the other areas. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single uploaded live stream, both UCL Fantasy and FPL. We're getting very close towards 33,000 subscribers, which is our main objective by the end of the season. And let's get this video in particular to over 150 likes. Tune into the deadline stream tomorrow. I'll be answering all your questions 2 hours before the deadline, so it's going to be a very long and also proactive and engaging live stream as usual. And there is also a best team video combining the wildcard and limitless chips for those of you that haven't used any of them yet, or maybe you still have one remaining and you want to really optimize your squad for Matchday 15 all the way until the Champions League final in 17, where remember, you only need a starting 11 for that specific match day, but for match days 15 and 16, you still want to have a solid squad and some good bench options so you can rotate your goalkeepers, make substitutions, and change the captaincy as well. Check all the links in the description for my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Dylan RCM, the Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. This same goes for my Patreon and the championships, and a big up to Napstars and Paredes for gifting multiple memberships in the recent UCL Fantasy and FPL deadline streams. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. You may have forgotten by now, but let's cast our minds back to Matchday 14, the second leg of the quarterfinals, to talk about how I did, and it was a fairly underwhelming week for me personally, but in goal I had no complaints about Courtois, who saved the penalty from Bukayo Saka and got 7 points, despite the fact that Real Madrid conceded twice on the night and 5 on aggregate. And to be honest, if it wasn't for Courtois, Real Madrid could have been absolutely battered across both matches, particularly at the Emirates, where it was already 3-0 to Arsenal, but it could have been 5 or 6 without Thibaut Courtois. He was by far the best goalkeeper there for Matchday 14 in particular. And my defensive line was pretty underwhelming, with Saliba and Bastoni both blanking, and Saliba made that mistake, which gave Vinicius Jr. that kind of hope and optimism. A clear-cut goal, of course, for him personally, and Real Madrid had a little bit of hope to make a remontada, which ultimately didn't happen. Bastoni got player of the match in the first leg, but then blanked in the second, so no complaints there about him. And both Hakimi and Nuno Mendes scored in a 3-2 loss against Aston Villa, so I'm very happy with how things turned out there. I sold William Bacho to Nuno Mendes, which seemed a little bit sideways, but the attacking threat from the Portuguese left-back is insane. And whilst William Bacho has the ball recoveries, 101 for this season to be exact, and Marquinhos has 100, I think any single PSG defender is viable. And whilst Donnarumma in goal can save penalties and be crucial in penalty shootouts, I would still ultimately recommend covering PSG defensively with Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, and potentially one of those centre-backs who make so many ball recoveries. Now, in the midfield, it was also very underwhelming to say the least. In fact, this was my worst position, but Ousmane Dembele got an assist and was awarded player of the match once more. Bukayo Saka missed a penalty, but then atoned for his error by chipping Courtois from open play. And Rodgers, my new signing, blanked. The same goes for Rafinha, who was actually my first day captaincy choice, so he was very underwhelming too, but he did the business in the first leg. But my forward line was also pretty poor. Harry Kane scored but missed multiple big chances across both games, and when I didn't have him against Bayer Leverkusen, he was absolutely sensational. And as for Kylian Mbappe, he was my second day captain and did absolutely nothing against Arsenal across both legs, so the Gunners did a great job containing him, and ultimately if it wasn't for Saliba's error, Arsenal could have kept 2 clean sheets there, both home and away. As for my bench, it was also pretty poor, but you never really want to have bench points here. And all of my Barcelona players in Szczesny, Koundé, Yamal, and Lewandowski all blanked. And as for the Polish striker, he is actually ruled out of Matchday 15, and I'll be talking about injuries and suspensions very soon. There's only one suspension to talk about because all yellow cards have been reset after the quarterfinals. And in terms of my rank and the points, I got 56 for Matchday 14 and a small red arrow of around a few hundred places. So this is by far my worst rank in UCL Fantasy up until now, but it's still a good rank overall. And I'm looking to end this season as strongly as possible without any wildcard or limitless, but I don't think it's really necessary in my situation because the wildcard in Matchday 13 has set me up very well for the quarterfinal stages and also in the long term. With 5 free transfers at my disposal, I can easily match those wildcard and limitless teams. Be sure to check out that video to see who I believe are the best players in each position, and also some mega differentials with 1% ownership in certain cases that can boost you up those mini leagues and the rankings. But let's discuss some transfer plans for Matchday 15, and in goal, Courtois to Raya is a very simple move. Now, I could go to Donnarumma, and you might also be thinking, what about Sommer, since you've got Szczesny already? Well, I want to have a Tuesday goalkeeper and one on the Wednesday, so Sommer is out of the equation since I have Szczesny in my team already, and I also back Barcelona more than Inter Milan to keep a clean sheet in the first leg, and as I'll discuss later in this video, Inter Milan are in terrible form across all competitions, so I think Raya is the best Tuesday goalkeeper, at least for the first leg, and I'm favouring him over Donnarumma. And as mentioned before, I would rather go for Nuno Mendes, Hakimi, Marquinhos and William Baccio to cover that Paris Saint-Germain defence. With Arsenal, I don't think there are that many clear standouts in that certain position, and Raya can easily match the likes of Timber, Lewis Skelly and also Kivior. I've already got Saliba in my team, so doubling up on the Gunners defensively could work very well, at least for tomorrow, and the Gunners are top of the clean sheet odds of any semi-finalists. But let's now skip the defenders and keep what I have, and instead I'm looking to make a modification in the midfield. Morgan Rogers is eliminated, and moving him to a differential like Ferran Torres could work very nicely. Now there is Fermin Lopez, Pedri, Mikel Merino if he's fit, but he is a major concern for Matchday 15, Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha. All of those players are being considered in the midfield, but Ferran Torres is my favourite because he's playing down the middle for Barcelona. He scored in the Copa del Rey final against Real Madrid to take it to extra time, and Mikel Merino is also very similar in this regard. Their price tags are identical. They play down the middle for a good team, and they've both been doing very well in the absence of the main strikers at those respective clubs. And until Robert Lewandowski comes back, I think Ferran Torres is a great differential, and even though you might have three midfielders from Barcelona with Yamal, Rafinha and Ferran Torres, I think it could be worthwhile and also a massive differential for the semi-finals. You need to find these kind of different aspects and also differentials to separate yourself from the rest of the pack to then go up those rankings and the mini leagues, and I think Ferran Torres could be the best midfielder of them all, on top of the template, Saka's, Dembele's, Yamal's and Rafinha's, who for me are kind of set in stone in that midfield. But now moving on to the other position, I am focusing most of my efforts on the forward line with a complete revamp and rebuild here. So Harry Kane is going to make way for Doué, who only costs 4.9 million, and unfortunately we are basically limited to 3 options in this position, and it could come down to who starts up front alongside Lautaro Martinez for Inter Milan in terms of differentiating yourself and gaining a little bit over others, but otherwise we're all going to go for the same players because they're the only options we have. Kai Havertz will miss both semi-finals against PSG. Robert Lewandowski could also miss the second leg, and he would have been by far the standout, I think, from any team. And I think the main striker that we have at our disposal at this moment in time is going to be a certain Lautaro Martinez, but I'm also looking at Arnautovic to couple him because the reports indicate that it will be the Austrian starting alongside the Argentine, and it looks like Taremi will be on the bench. But let's keep an eye out for the Sky Sports Italia lineup. They are very reliable with their predictions, and we might get that during the deadline stream tomorrow. But Thuram might make it to the squad, but he's not able to start. That's what the reports indicate in Italy. And if that's the case, I think Arnautovic will get the nod. And to be honest, both him and Taremi have been poor this season. Only 1 goal for Arnautovic in the Champions League, and he missed a penalty. And Taremi has flattered to deceive more often than not. But both of them have been very poor recently. I mean, Arnautovic started against Roma, and he didn't really play that well, to be honest. So Mbappe does make way for Arnautovic. I don't have much choice in this position, but the best striker that I don't have yet, and he will definitely come in for Matchday 15, is Lautaro Martinez, who will replace Robert Lewandowski. And once the Polish striker is back, he will then get back into the fold, and having both of these would be great for Matchday 16, but I'm not sure if Lewandowski will make it by that stage. But there is more positive news actually for Barcelona in Balde, who could be available against Inter Milan, but he's not in my thoughts in terms of transfers. But with all of that in mind, let's discuss my provisional Matchday 15 team, which is still subject to change, but I'm quite set on the positions I'm looking to kind of change at. So David Raya will be in goal, facing PSG at home. He is my favourite goalkeeper from the Tuesday. I know Donnarumma might be preferred by some of you, and that could be a differential in of itself. But with PSG defensively, I'd rather cover them with those defenders I mentioned earlier. Speaking of which, my entire backline in the starting 11 is composed of those Arsenal and PSG players, with Saliba, Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. And whilst I could add a ball recoverer like William Baccio or Marquinhos, I'm quite happy with this, I think. And to be honest, with Lewandowski injured, two eliminated players up front in Kane and Mbappe, and also Rodgers, who's eliminated, I think the transfers speak for themselves, and I need to make a goalkeeper move, one in the midfield, and then 3 in the forward line. I don't think it's worth taking a hit for that Bacho or Marquinhos signing, but you might have a different opinion with their ball recoveries. Now in the midfield, I've got Saka, Yamal, Rafinha and Dembele. These 4 are locked in. I think they're the best 4 midfielders in UCL Fantasy, but then it comes down to that 5th choice. Do you go for Fermin Lopez, Kvaratskhelia, Vitinha, or somebody else entirely, Mikel Merino? And someone I haven't mentioned is Declan Rice, who scored 2 brilliant free kicks against Real Madrid in the first leg and won player of the match in both ties. So he is definitely a good option, and you might want to consider him too. And he is also near the top of my list alongside Ferran Torres, but I am leaning towards the Barcelona striker at this moment in time, an out-position player playing in such a great attacking team, and with Inter Milan's recent form, I think Barcelona could score 2 or 3 goals despite Inter Milan's sturdy defence that we've seen all season. But in this forward line, unfortunately, it's going to be very template very soon, but Arnautovic could be that kind of game changer potentially. I think a lot of people won't be aware of Thuram's injury. That should be updated in the UCL Fantasy app and website by Monday night, going into Tuesday morning, but I think it's either Arnautovic or Thuram starting alongside Lautaro Martinez, and the Austrian is currently the favourite, so that could be a little differential, I guess, but everyone will have Lautaro Martinez and Doué because there's simply nobody else in this forward line in UCL Fantasy, and compared to early in the season when we were basically spoilt for choice, that is no longer the case, and we are now limited to basically the same 3 options. Now on my bench, I've also got Szczesny, Koundé, Bastoni, and Ferran Torres, so if you kind of break it down, I've got 7 Tuesday players and 8 on the Wednesday. And I'll be honest, Mikel Merino was my original idea to double up on the Arsenal midfield and have 8 Tuesday players, which is usually the balance you want, 8 to 9 on that specific day, and then make substitutions if needed. But I wouldn't look too much into it. You also want just the best players you think for UCL Fantasy, and Ferran Torres right now looks like the best 5th midfielder alongside these 4 that are also higher up in the rankings, but I don't think Torres is too far behind. And in terms of the players from each club, I've got Raya, Saliba and Saka from Arsenal, so that's 3. From PSG, I've got Hakimi, Nuno Mendes and also Doué and Dembele, so that's 4 PSG players. And for Barcelona, I've got Yamal, Rafinha, Koundé, Szczesny and Ferran Torres, so that's 5 Barcelona players. And for Inter Milan, I've got Arnautovic, Lautaro Martinez and Bastoni. So I've got a nice balance of every single team with 3 Inter Milan players as well. You might want to go all in on certain clubs. I'm sure people will ask in the deadline stream and the comment section about should we just go all in on a team that I think is going to win, especially in the first leg at least, and try to get points that way. And that is certainly a viable strategy, but I also think these ties are quite difficult to predict. I think Barcelona will go through for what it's worth, whilst Arsenal PSG is a lot closer than the other tie in my opinion, based on recent form, but you just never know. And going into this semi-final, especially a week or 2 ago, we probably would have said it's almost at 25% each in terms of the probabilities of winning the Champions League. But I do think Barcelona are now the favourites to win this competition, but I don't think it's like a clear-cut standout as we have seen in recent seasons, and I don't think there is really a powerhouse in European football at this moment in time. So that is my current 50-man squad, and it's also worth talking about the captaincy. It always is. On the Tuesday, I'm looking at Saka, and I'm favouring that Arsenal win because it's at home, and they haven't lost a single European home game in several years now. They've been excellent at the Emirates, and they need to continue that to have any chance of progressing, because it'll be very difficult in the away tie against PSG. But if needed, on the Wednesday, Rafinha will be my backup captain. If you want to go different, because ultimately these 2 are template captaincy options, you might want to go for definitely Ferran Torres on the Wednesday with 1% ownership, soon to be 5 to 10% probably. It could even be more than that if people are still engaged in UCL Fantasy. On the Tuesday, as a differential captain, you might want to go for Merino if he starts, and hopefully that is the case for the Gunners. Declan Rice, Ousmane Dembele wouldn't be a differential, but you might be backing PSG to win that game. And I think the likes of Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, whilst I'm not really an advocate for it, as I think Arsenal will score, they have the attacking potential to potentially get something from that game. Arsenal have faced PSG earlier this season. It was a 2-0 win for Arsenal, but PSG didn't have Dembele on that particular night, and they also weren't the same team that they are now. but their recent form has also been a little bit shaky. So it goes to show it isn't easy. It's a very long season, and it's fair to say that the focus is ultimately on the Champions League from all of these clubs, especially Arsenal and PSG, with the Parisians winning Ligue 1 several weeks ago. Arsenal have nothing else to play for. And in the case of Inter Milan, they are still competing for that Serie A title, but they were leapfrogged by Napoli this weekend. And I think the Champions League has taken away a lot of their focus, and their energy levels have definitely been shattered in recent weeks. And Barcelona have done very well to compete in all of these competitions, winning Copa del Rey. They're still top of La Liga, and they're also the favourites to win the Champions League. Speaking of which, let's talk about the clean sheet probabilities for the first leg of the semi-finals. Arsenal are narrowly top with a 33% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Barcelona are second with 32%. Then you have PSG and Inter Milan completing the rest of the semi-finalists in that order. And as you can tell, the home advantage is definitely a big part of these. But I think with Inter Milan being so low at 15%, it goes to show how much of a favourite Barcelona is now, according to fantasyfootballpundit.com, where these stats are taken from. But let's also discuss the goal scorer odds, and I would encourage you to ignore the number one spot because Robert Lewandowski is out. He's not going to be called up for Matchday 15. So I have included Odegaard, who is in 16th place, and he now technically moves up to 15th. So Rafinha, Yamal and Dembele complete the podium. They're in the top three. Then we have Ferran Torres, Saka, Lautaro Martinez, Trossard, Gonzalo Ramos, Martinelli, Ethan Nwaneri, Thuram, Mikel Merino, Olmo, and Barcola. And of course, Odegaard is down there in 15th now. But a few of those players are actually injury concerns, like Mikel Merino, so he could also be out of the equation very soon. And it's also worth mentioning that all of these figures are with the assumption that these players start, and that won't be the case for all of them, like Trossard, who might start if Mikel Merino is out, by the way, but otherwise you'd expect Trossard to be an impact sub. And Gonzalo Ramos will likely be on the bench, with Dembele playing as the false nine throughout the entire season, especially in this calendar year where he has just gone off on an absolute tangent and done so well, scoring the most goals of any player in this calendar year. So those are the odds for the goal scorers and the clean sheets. Let me know if you have any different opinions, and which teams are you backing to go through to the final and also to keep a clean sheet, or perhaps just win the first leg at least. All of those thoughts can be left in the comments section. Let's continue the conversation in the Discord server and X and Instagram, all those social media platforms, which can be found in the description. And don't forget the deadline stream on Tuesday. During the knockout stages, I have introduced new segments to these videos, especially with the clean sheet and goal scorer odds, but also with the fixtures, showing you the results and also the upcoming games, the brackets and team news. And that's what I'm going to do in this section. So you can see the Matchday 14 results here. Borussia Dortmund 3, Barcelona 1, but the Catalans went through on aggregate. The same goes for Aston Villa PSG, where the Parisians lost on the night, but they still got the job done overall. Inter Milan 2, Bayern Munich 2, but the Italian side have progressed, and Arsenal won both legs against Real Madrid in emphatic fashion, winning 5-1 against the reigning European champions. But let's now discuss team news with these semi-finalists here, and let's start off with Arsenal, the home side. They drew 2-2 against Crystal Palace on Wednesday night after rotating several key players like Saka. The Gunners are unbeaten in 12 matches. However, it's 6 wins and 6 draws, which isn't particularly impressive, especially in the Premier League. Now, in terms of injuries, Ben White wasn't in the Arsenal squad once again, and we have seen him kind of disappear randomly from these squads, and we don't know exactly what the issue is. Now, Merino also missed out, and he has a concern now for Matchday 15, and any updates will be provided on this channel, and I'll discuss the Arsenal and PSG lineups tomorrow during the deadline stream. Now, Calafiori is progressing well and could be available, but Jorginho and Havertz are ruled out. Jesus, Gabriel and Tomiyasu are unavailable for the rest of the season, and whilst yellow cards have been reset after the quarterfinals, Thomas Partey picked up his 3rd yellow card in the second leg, so that means he's out for the first leg against PSG, and that is a massive blow there for Arsenal. But PSG have 28 wins, 3 draws and 3 losses from the last 34 games, but only 1 win from the last 4 matches overall. The Parisians lost in Ligue 1 for the first time this season, with Nice securing a 3-1 win away from home, so PSG actually lost on the home turf. And PSG also played their strongest team, with Dembele getting an assist. But there are no injuries or suspensions to report, so we can move on to the Wednesday match. And Barcelona won the Copa del Rey versus Real Madrid in extra time. Jules Koundé scored the winner, and the other goals were scored by Pedri and also Ferran Torres, with Yamal getting 2 assists. And the Catalans have 8 wins out of the last 10 matches and sit 4 points clear of that La Liga table. Lewandowski will miss Matchday 15 through injury. Ter Stegen, Casado and Bernal remain unavailable, But on the other hand, Balde could be fit to play Inter Milan, and that could be a massive boost in that left-back spot, and the Catalans have no suspensions to report. And the same goes for Inter Milan, who are winless in 4 matches after losing 1-0 at home versus Roma, with 3 successive defeats across all competitions. That includes a 3-0 loss versus AC Milan in the Coppa Italia, losing 4-1 on aggregate. Napoli have also leapfrogged them in the Serie A table to first place, so it has been a tough time for Inter Milan. But Dumfries made his return on Sunday as a substitute. However, Pavard was subbed off due to injury, so that's one to monitor, and hopefully that Sky Sports Italia lineup does come out and we can talk about it in the deadline stream. And reports indicate that Thuram could be called up to the Champions League squad, but he won't be able to start in the first leg. So let's also keep an eye out for that situation in particular. But that is all that we need to talk about in terms of injuries and suspensions. And this is the knockout phase and the bracket. So we have come a long way already. So of course, the winner of Arsenal PSG will face either Barcelona or Inter Milan. So we will have a promising Champions League final potentially, a lot of different storylines and an evenly balanced set of semi-finals in general. And whilst PSG and Barcelona are the favourites to go through, you can't rule out Arsenal or Inter Milan, in my opinion, and we have seen a lot of upsets happen already in the Champions League this season. But let's also discuss some stats very quickly. The top scorer of the Champions League is Guirassy, who is eliminated, and you can see Harry Kane there also in the top 3, technically in the top 4 there, joint with Lewandowski, and Rafinha is second with 12, so he is the favourite to win the Champions League Golden Boot. And Lewandowski, of course, is missing the first leg, so that won't really help his chances. And Vinicius, Lautaro Martinez and Haaland are also up there amongst the top scorer bracket. And basically, we are going to see if Rafinha, Lewandowski or Lautaro Martinez end up winning it, unless they all just suddenly can't catch up to Guirassy, and we see a very surprising winner who is eliminated in the quarterfinal stages with a hat-trick against Barcelona in the second leg of the quarterfinals. Now, as for the assisters, nothing has changed from the last time I showed this. So Rafinha remains top with 7 assists, Kimmich is second with 6, Hakimi, Frimpong, De Ketelaere and Zappacosta all have 5. So let's see who wins this between Rafinha, Kimmich, Hakimi or somebody else who might have 4 assists at the moment but can leapfrog all of them to that top spot in the assist charts. And all of that will be covered on this channel, and let's try to build the best team possible for Matchday 15 whilst maintaining a solid foundation for future rounds. We might be severely limited in that forward line with only 3 options to choose from, and it might just come down to Arnautovic, Taremi or Thuram, just kind of backing one of them to start and hoping for the best there. But what are you looking to do in the midfield, defence and goalkeeper position? Maybe you prefer Sommer and also Donnarumma over Szczesny and Raya. You might be looking at a defensive change, going for Benjamin Pavard, who is doubtful now, and that is something we need to look at. Maybe you want to go for Kivior. You want to go for Lewis Skelly, Jurriën Timber, William Bachor, Marquinhos, Inigo Martinez. There are still a lot of choices there in that defensive line. And in the midfield, you've got Kvaratskhelia, Vitinha, Marino, if he's available. I think he'd be a great option. Declan Rice, and you've also got a few others there. Ferran Torres is my favourite, but you can't discount Pedri or Fermin Lopez. And I think a differential captain on the Tuesday that I didn't discuss before would be Doué. I think if he starts, he could do really well there. He did start at the Emirates earlier this season and didn't really do much, but I think he's also progressed as a player a lot in the last couple of months, and he is definitely one to look at across both semi-finals. So that is my thoughts on the best 50-man squad on the wildcard, limitless and with free transfers. I think it's all attainable, to be quite honest with you, and it's just a shame about the injury to Lewandowski up front and Thuram, because we could have seen a bit of variety in that position at least, and I just think the forwards could be very low scoring. Maybe I'm going to be wrong about that and it ages very poorly, but it just doesn't seem that, I don't know, exciting compared to last season when we still had Vinicius, Rodrigo, Mbappe, and also we had Füllkrug. Of course, Mbappe was at PSG at the time, but it's kind of funny how the forward line has been decimated with the recent eliminations to Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. But hopefully we do see some surprises and maybe a few differentials that rise to the surface, and we can catch them early and get those points and rank rises in the process. That concludes my team selection for Matchday 15 in UCL Fantasy, the first leg of the semi-finals. I've got 5 free transfers at my disposal. I'll be using all 5 of them. Not a single hit will be taken, and my Limitless and Wildcard have already been deployed. The Limitless back in Matchday 3 and the Wildcard in Matchday 13, which has put me in a great position now for the semi-finals and the Champions League final. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also the notification bell so you don't miss a single uploaded live stream for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Also check out the UCL Fantasy League. There is a code in the description and an auto join link. The code is cCaFxb. The same goes to my X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the other links in the description for my Patreon and my championships, further access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Spotify, and much more can be found in that description. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UCL Fantasy content, and that includes a deadline stream tomorrow.